WeRiseNation.com.
This where the grown men stay so you can kill that noise. We be the best to do it coming out of Illinois. So sit back and relax, close your mouth and listen. We bout to hit you with this knowledge that you've been missing. Listen closely to the Grown Men Podcast. We Rise Nation is the station with the gift of gab. We dropping knowledge on these topics that you wanna hear. We on point with it, get the picture loud and clear. If you seek it, you will find what you looking for. And once you hear us, it'll leave you looking for some more. Open the door, let us in, we got a special vibe. Now close the door, lock us in, and enjoy the ride. We about to talk about some things that make a lot of sense. And what we talking about here sometimes will get intense. That's what we looking for, trying to spark a conversation. Join us live or you can listen on the We Rise Nation. This where the grown men stay so you can kill that noise. We be the best to do it coming out of Illinois. So sit back and relax, close your mouth and listen. We about to hit you with this knowledge that you've been missing. This where the grown men stay.
Welcome back to another edition of the Grown Men Podcast. I am your host, B.A.N., and welcome back to the show. Well, this week we have a lot of things to talk about on the show. A lot of topics came up. We've been getting some good feedback going on from the website, WeRiseNation.com. A lot of different people come in. They're excited about the topics that we're talking about. They're passionate about it. And so are we when we are doing these podcasts. We're doing it for you, the people, to listen to our thoughts on these topics. And this week, I got a big one that I wanted to talk about because we haven't been talking about a lot of things, as far as what's going on in politics. We're going to jump back into that a little bit later on in podcasting. But right now, I want to talk about something that I've been talking to a lot of people about this week and during the past couple of months, and that is the big con. And we know what the big con is, right, folks? I mean, everybody out here can see it right now with what is going on with the federal government, one of the biggest cons of all time. But let's break down the con game and what it entails. You see, there are a lot of different cons that have been going on since the beginning of time. A lot of people try to get you to believe things based on what they believe in or what they can get you to believe in, where they can profit off of. Now, I know a lot of us right now that are listening to the podcast, a lot of you guys that are listening, you will probably can say that you've experienced being either on the con side or being con. And I can say right now that I've been on the other side of that coin where I've been con. And it's one of those things where it's not a good feeling and you feel foolish at the end of the day. But then you learn from it, right? And then you don't repeat the same cycle over and over again and keep falling for the same old tricks, or the okie doke as we like to call it. But there are a lot of us who, for whatever the reason is, we continue to fall for con. We continue to fall for game all the time. And we're not learning our lessons. And this is the landscape we find ourselves in right now, where the biggest con of all is happening in the federal government. We know what the president of the United States is about. When he was inaugurated, he said business is open at the White House. And we know that the biggest cons and lies that he has told has affected the American people to the fullest. However, there are some who are so gullible, so ignorant, that they can't see through what it is. Because either it's that or you're complicit in what's going on. Either way, it's a terrible situation for the American people. And yet we continue to see these grifters all the time. And I mean in society, not just in the federal government, but in society as a whole. These grifters that are taking advantage of elderly people, trying to get into their homes and talk about they can lower their electricity rate or whatever the case may be. We see this all the time. And we expect better of people. But we haven't got to that point where we can be better. Because too many of us are proud to make our living off the backs and the ignorance of others. And right now we see it going on in society, and it's not being checked because the people that are at the top are not checking it. They're in on it. And it goes from the highest branch of the government to the lowest branch. And right now, the biggest con game going on is run by Donald J. Trump because he's the biggest grifter. He's the biggest con artist of all time. And he got gullible rubes and suckers to believe his fantasies and what he thought he could do with America. Of course, we know his helpers are right there with him. We know the Russ Voigts of the world, the Stephen Millers of the world. Those people right there tell you everything that you need to know about where we are as a country, where we are as a world in general. Because Donald Trump is playing and running game on the American people. And yes, there are still some 38% of the people, most of the people who are benefiting from this, who believe this con game. Because see, when you follow the money, you follow the crime. And we know that there are a bunch of criminals who work for the federal government right now at this moment. And they should be talked about. And when this regime disappears, they should be prosecuted. You have the president of the United States going around people saying people should be executed. This is what he's doing now. We're no different than Russia and North Korea. That's where we are right now. When you are killing people in fishing boats saying that it's drugs, you're killing people and saying these Venezuelans are bringing things into the country. No, that's bull. We've heard this same song and dance before when this country went in Iraq looking for weapons of mass destruction over in Afghanistan, and they never found anything. Same con. And yet the American people, for some reason, some of us, continue to fall for game. Tariffs. Oh, the other countries are going to pay the tariffs. And you had people who actually believe that. And it's laughable. And that's what they're doing behind the rubes and the suckers' backs. And some of the people on the right, in this political party, meaning the Republicans, have now resigned themselves to the fact that they were conned. Marjorie Taylor Greene, she knows that she was conned. Thomas Massie, conned. This was a man who, from day one of his presidency and his corrupt Department of Justice, headed by Pam Bondi, and Bug Eyes at the FBI, Kash Patel, they all said they were going to be open. Everything is going to be open. There's not going to be anything hidden. And they're going to release these Epstein files. And you see that they're releasing redacted files. And Trump himself confided to Marjorie Taylor Greene that he didn't want his friends to be harmed by what may come out in these files. If that's not game, what is? I'm from the streets. I'm from the hood. I know game and I can smell it. And anybody who says anything different is a liar. And I would tell anyone to their face, you're lying because you're in on this con to defraud the American people of their money. You want to take away health care, right? Because the black man came up with an idea for everyone to have health care. Not a black man. That's the last thing that you would want. Because you see, in this country, we got a lot of people on both sides of this argument, right? And you got a lot of us as black Americans who are bowing down too. Look at that trick, Nicki Minaj. Deport her. She's not an American citizen. And see, a lot of people are up in outrage, right? They're up in arms about what she did. These people are celebrities and they're sellouts. The only bottom line they care about is the dollar bill in their pockets. And I speak on all of them. All the so-called rappers and MCs that were well respected, that flipped the script. They didn't stand on it like Chuck D. They didn't stand on it like KRS-One because they don't have the balls like them men have that stand on what they say. And they could give a damn less if you give them billions of dollars. Because at the end of the day, they made their money and they knew what to do with their money and not trick it off. However, people like Nicki Minaj, because she's a trick, and along with the rest of these goons who think they're really doing something, they're doing nothing but getting down on their knees and doing you know what to the man. Because that's all they know how to do. So when you smell a con and yet you still fall for it, no, you don't do that. That means you're complicit in it. You know that this con is going on and you're trying to see what you can get out of it. So she lost 10 million followers. And I'm speaking of Nicki Minaj. Good for her. Lose 10 million more. Deport her. She wasn't born here. So that makes her an illegal immigrant. And she's dancing on stage with Charlie Kirk's widow. Oh, Charlie Kirk's widow is having a good time for someone who just put a racist husband in the ground. And I'm not going to tiptoe and speak around that anymore. I'm going to call it out for what it is. And all these Stephen A. Smiths and all these other goofy, ignorant black people that want to praise and say, well, I spoke to Charlie Kirk. I want to hear that bull. No one wants to hear it. Charlie Kirk was a racist. I'm not sorry that he's dead. Pluck out his eyeballs and feed his fish. Feed him his fish food. I could care less. And see, that's what we need to start doing, right? Is being open and honest with what we're saying. Let's call a spade a spade. I don't give a damn more about you than you care about me. And I will talk about Agent Orange that sits in the White House. And when he dies, if I'm lucky enough to be alive, I will not shed one tear for him. Because what he's doing is perpetuating exactly what everyone else thinks about Black Americans, Latino Americans, and every other minority in this country. They could care less. Unless a black man is dribbling a basketball or running a football down the field, they don't think we are qualified to do anything else. That's what they believe. They don't believe that we should be doctors or pilots or anything else that has been preserved for white people in this country, right? And you have a pastor who has recently came out and said that black people can't go to heaven. This is that knuckle dragging mentality that's been around for centuries because they never want to see us rise and prosper. And yet still we have some black Americans who say, let everything be, or let it be the way that it was. Stop being woke. And as a black American, I find that insulting because we've been woke. We never went to sleep. We've been talking about slavery. We've been talking about civil rights in this country because we've always been on the short end of the stick. And we should continue talking about these things. As you have a lot of black Americans continue to say, let's stop the fight for reparations. Why should we? Why should that discussion come off the table when we're not satisfied with the outcome? We have to fight. We have to speak on it. We have to stand on it just like we do anything else. Because what's right is right and what's wrong is wrong. And if we don't speak on it, then we're complicit in this con as well. You see, there are many different cons, and they take many different shapes and appearances. But the main thing they try to do is to get you to believe what they believe and play you as a mark. Because at the end of the day, a con needs marks. And in this country, you had several million marks that fell for it. And it didn't benefit the American people, at least the non-wealthy ones it didn't. As you can see right now, millions of Americans have lost their health care. And a lot of them dropped it because they can't afford the premium, and that'll skyrocket the health care costs. But do you see the so-called billionaire caring about that? No. He's looking for the con games he can run to steal things from other countries. He wants the oil rights in Venezuela. He wants the minerals over there in Ukraine. Whatever Israel can give him, he's glad to accept because he'll make a side deal with them as well. As many more children and women are being murdered on the Gaza Strip. And why? And why? These are holy wars that have been fought for centuries. It's because people always get their religious thoughts and beliefs lined up, and then they want to take advantage of people that are in smaller groups than they are. And it's happening here the same way in the United States of America, as Trump has declared this to be a Christian country, when he's not a Christian, and none of the people that are in the White House are Christians. You do not believe in Christ. That's the biggest con and lie of all time. Because if you walk with Christ, you would be trying to help people and not hurt people. That's the number one thing. When I read the Bible, that's what I got from it. That's what I was taught by my mother. Do right by others. Yet, this sociopath, this pedophile president is only thinking of himself, which is what he always does. He's the man who said out his own mouth, he cannot be president for all people. And he's showing us this. He's president in name only for his billionaire friends and donors. That's why they have positions in the federal government right now. And that's why it continues to be one of these situations where everybody is pulling out of things. Like performers that pulled out of the Kennedy Center, right? But you only saw a few people sitting up there receiving their awards. Stallone was one of them. Gloria Gaynor was another one. I lost all respect for her when she sat up there because it's disrespectful to us as Black Americans. And I felt personally like I don't even have to look at it because I don't look at it anyway. But for the simple fact, anybody who sat up there to receive anything from him, they're complicit in this as well. And those are people that are off my list. I don't care what they do. I don't watch their television shows, their movies, programs. I don't shop at their facilities. I've said this before on the Grown Men podcast, and I will continue to say it and double down on it. And I don't give a damn if they say, oh, I don't care. I don't care either. But I'm letting you know that I don't care. And if millions of other people done that, like they did with that certain celebrity, Nicki Minaj, where they unfollowed her, that's what more people need to do. And they got the petition going around to deport her. That's what more people need to do. Keep the pressure on. Keep the heat on. Make these people feel it. Because they betrayed the American people and the American trust as well. But it should be no secret. It should be no surprise. Because that's what celebrities do. Because keep in mind, most of these people that are celebrities, they either never worked a day in their life, or when they got to where they were, they turned their back and said, hey, I'm done with this struggle. I'm on top now. And I will do whatever it takes to stay that way, regardless of who I got to step on. That is their mentality. This is what they're showing you. And see, I've been around the block, so I know con and I know game and I smell it and I get away from it and I get out from up under it. Because see, what they do is never going to affect me because I'm going to keep talking until they put me in that box, in that ground. And even then, my words will still live on because I said it and people will know that I said it and they know that I meant what I said. So when you see Trump running this game right now, everybody knows. Everybody knows. And now he's the one that's going to have to face it. But he knows for the simple fact he's not going to be around much longer. He knows this. That's why he's trying to inflict as much pain on the American people as possible. That's why he's withholding funding from blue states that didn't vote for him. Because he's a petty, petulant child, as I said before here on the Grown Men Podcast. I'm going to start the new year off just like I did the last year, continuing to talk about this egomaniac lunatic. That's what I continue to talk about on a regular basis with anyone I discuss issues with. It all comes back to Donald J. Trump. Because one thing for sure, he always wants to be number one. And in this aspect, he is. He is the number one grifter and con man of all time here in America. Because he conned a bunch of rubes and suckers to go along with his billionaire friends that are keeping them broke in rural counties where they have nothing. While in the big city, life goes on. We continue to struggle because that's all we've ever known. So you're not putting anything more on us than we've already had put on us. My parents struggled, my grandparents struggled, and their parents struggled. So we know about struggling. But hell, we also know about fighting. We also know about speaking up when we need to and saying what we have to say in order to get people's attention. And that's exactly what we do right here on the Grown Men Podcast. And that's what we will continue to do going into this year and the next year after. We will continue to keep the pressure on because that's what we should be doing. If you've got a voice and you're able to speak and you're able to talk, you should be saying the same things that we're saying. It's nothing new. And I'm not doing anything that anyone else is doing. I'm just speaking the truth. Yeah, so being part of this grift that we see going on right now, it shouldn't be shocking to anyone. These are the things that this man has talked about several times before. And I'm going to go talk about something that I experienced in my lifetime, and that is when someone tried to get me to sign up other people, right? It's just like when they run in the old pyramid schemes and all these different things that go on. You sell these products and you belong to this club and they sell these products and they sell these products and so on, so on, and so on. And a guy kept trying to lean on me to get me signed up because if he get 10 or 20 rubes or suckers to sign up, and then it makes sense for him, right? Because then they get 10 more and they get 10 more and then he's getting, benefits as far as money off of what you're doing. So it's just one of these things that continues to happen. And when it happens, for American president to be involved in, as you see, it just makes it really low rent. It makes America look bad. It makes America look cheap. America loses its strength. And see, the strength of America has not been the politicians, but the people. And now the people are speaking up and they're continuing to speak up and they're continuing to keep the pressure on this lunatic and his administration and call them out for the liars and the grifters that they are. because all of them have interests, right, in these other countries and everything that goes on. So it all ties in back to what I was just saying a minute ago, where you have the pyramid and you have certain people that are on the top and certain people on the bottom. And the people on the bottom, of course, always do the heavy work, while the people on top reap the benefits. And it's just the same example with what's going on with the federal government right now. They are using any tactic necessary and at their disposal to try to grift as much money off the federal government as they can. And on their way out, Trump is trying to pardon them for any crimes they may have committed while serving under him as president of the United States. And if you look at all of these, places in the federal government that used to be independent of the executive branch, now everything seemingly is falling under the executive branch. What does that tell you? We know what Speaker of the House Mike Johnson is. We know he's a sniveling little coward, and he's in on the con because he stands to benefit from it. That's the only reason he's in it. He can't possibly believe that Donald Trump, in any way, shape, or form, is religious or believes in God, because he simply does not. So that's the one thing that Mike Johnson always stands on. He's one of these Bible belt, Bible thumping guys. And yet the man that he's subservient to is one of the most slimiest creatures that could have crawled from the depths of hell. He gets no respect. He gets no validity. And Trump treats him like a stepchild. But this is how it works, and he has to stand there and take it. Because for the simple fact, he can't speak back because he know there'd be backlash from that. And even Magda breaks into pieces over certain things that Trump does. Because for the simple fact, Trump is in it for money, and that's all he cares about. Him and his crooked family, his idiotic sons, his stupid daughter, and the rest of that clan. They're only in it for money. They could give a damn less if you or I died tomorrow. They'd celebrate. And vice versa. That's the way it works. It shouldn't be this way, but it is. And they've made it this way. So for someone like myself, and a lot of people that listen right here on the Grown Men Podcast, the feeling is mutual. You want us to die, we don't care if you die. Either way it goes, however it goes, the world will keep turning. But for history's sake, none of these people would be forgiven, and they shouldn't be. They should be talked about. They should be martyrs in what happened. Because for the simple fact, they were complicit in this whole scheme. They were part of the problem and not an answer or a solution to what's going on. Because you see, everyone that becomes president of the United States has aspirations. They all want to get their agendas done. And Trump right now is going to be the one that is going to see his agenda get done, which is the destruction of the federal government and the breaking of the American people. Because now America is more divided than it's ever been. And we may not be able to come back from this, at least not in my lifetime. And I don't think in the future they will as well. Because, see, some people have gone so far off the rails that they will believe any and everything they hear or see on the internet. And as I've said previous on the Grown Men Podcast, the internet can be a wonderful, great thing. Same way with AI. We've talked about it. It can be wonderful and great. It can also be a detriment. it can also lead to our downfall because we don't use common sense. You see, for a lot of us, common sense flies right out the window. We only look at what's in front of us on our devices, whether it be our phones, tablets, or computers. And instead of taking things with a grain of salt, instead of doing a little research ourselves, we believe it. Then we repost it. We retweet it. We copy and paste it. And then spread it around. Just like all other disinformation, this is how it starts. And this is how game is run. Because, see, in order to pull off the big con, you need the big marks. And in this country, there are a lot of marks. People are marks for everything, right? They're marks for themselves or how great they are. They're marks for other people and how great they are, or whatever product they're trying to endorse. They're marks. Because for the simple fact they've been duped into the con, and they're seeing a way to profit off of this. And that is what we're doing here in the United States of America. We don't care how grimy it is. We don't care how dirty it is. We don't care how cheap it is. As long as we can profit from it, everything is fine. All of the rules and ethics go out the window. Because in the first place, a lot of us are morally bankrupt anyway. So the only thing we see is money. And we normalize this chase as being a necessary evil in order for us to survive. Because our economies continue to get out of whack, where 4 years we're good, 4 years we're out of whack, right? We can never have a consistent economy. And a lot of that falls to the fact, once again, as we talked about before on the Grown Men Podcast, it has to do with greed. What we want, not what we need. Greed. That is the definition in a sense, because you see people that have money and yet they want more money. And it becomes an addiction. Because how much is enough for you to live a stable life before you begin to help others and work on different things? But we don't do that when we get money. Our central focus is getting more money and being able to do the things that we want to do that harms the environment and doesn't help people. Yes, things like astronomy, where people want to travel into space and all these different things. That's fine. I'm a space enthusiast myself. But at the end of the day, if we don't help the people that are already on this planet, what are the hopes for future generations to be able to travel out into our solar system and our galaxies, other galaxies and universes? It can't happen until we fix what's here on this planet. And we can't even fix what's going on in this country, let alone across the world. We can't even fix the little petty things that we have going on in our neighborhoods and in families. Because everybody's trying to run the big con so they can get the big money. And the bottom line is they don't care who gets hurt in the process. So you got this president of the United States who's building gold ballrooms, and he's doing it with our tax money. Who is that benefiting? At the end of the day, who is that benefiting? Does that benefit me? I'm never going to the White House. So how is that benefiting me? My family will probably never go to the White House. So how is that benefiting them? The people in my neighborhood are not going to the White House. So how does that benefit them? People need real help. Not a con man, not a grifter who is taking our money and giving it to his billionaire friends to build whatever they want to build under the sun while leaving us to struggle. Like this is our plight that we created. No. You have a president who is set on doing what he wants to do. Damn any rules, damn any laws. This is where we are in society. This is who we have in the White House. A certified con man. And he's built his whole career and his whole legacy is built on that. From the universities that he and his family defrauded to the housing where he was discriminating against black families and everything under the sun that he's done. If you look him up, you'll see about the failed casinos and the naming rights to all these properties that he wants his name on. And the big place down in Florida, Mar-a-Lago. That's what he cares about. He wants to stick his name on everything as if it will exist forever. It won't. We're all here on this planet for a very short time. It may seem like a long time, but it is not. And sooner or later, you will be forgotten just like everyone else. You would have done your time here like we all have. And when it's time for us to go, we go. And yes, people will remember you for a few years or so. But it won't be something that will be everlasting. Because you won't be there in everlasting life. Because of what you have done to the people on this planet. God's people. So at the end of the day, when you see people running cons and they're running game to try to get on top, it's meaningless. It really is meaningless. Because when you sit back and try to define why you are actually doing these things, right? You can't come up with a solid reason or an explanation as to why other than greed. Because at the end of the day, when you sit down and think about your life, and did you do all you could, or did you get the best out of your life that you could? And you'll find that the answer is no. Because if you only went through your life helping yourself and no one else, you're not going to have anything good in the afterlife happen with you. You will be one of those souls that will be lost. And yet, we see it continue every day. People trying to get over on somebody else instead of going out and working as hard as you can to get the things that you want. Because if you want things in life, then they gotta be worth the grind. It's gotta be worth going through all the struggles to get to the point where you want to be. That is what makes us. That is what shapes who we are. Not the biggest con game that we can run, where we can talk with other people about, you see how I made these people look foolish when I took everything from them and left them with nothing. But that's what's going on right now in today's society. And it's unfortunate that the kids that are coming up in the next generation, this is what they're going to know. Not only because of Donald Trump, but because the people who are in cahoots with Donald Trump. Because they're going to teach their children this same garbage. That's why it's going to be a long time before the world gets rid of this rhetoric. And it'll come back again because it's been here before. We know the history of this country and the world. There have been dictators. There have been rulers. and all these different people who thought that they could not be toppled. But history tells us that they can be. And Trump and his administration and everybody involved will be footnotes in history. They'll be on the bad side, just like the McCarthys, the Hitlers, the Stalins, and all these other people. But you see, some people like Trump, it would please his ego to be spoken in the same terms with those people because he believes in the same kind of rhetoric that they do. You know, at first, a lot of people said, well, he's just saying this stuff for shock value, and he's just saying stuff to make the people on the left mad. Yeah, all of that may be true at the same time. But he also doesn't mind being called a dictator. He doesn't mind being called a ruler because that's what the people who work for him treat him as, a ruler. He's not their friend. He's not their confidant. He's their ruler. And they're all afraid to upset him because then they get thrown under the bus. They get outed. Just ask Marjorie Taylor Greene. Ask her. Ask Lauren Boebert. Ask her. He casts them off to the side because he's a user and a con man. And once you're no longer useful to him, he will discard you. Where's Mr. Tim Scott? I haven't heard anything from him. Where's Byron Donalds? I haven't heard anything from them. And yet they'll still say that they respect what he's doing and what he's doing is good. They will still say this after everything that we've seen in 1 year, the first year of this man's term. They will still hold him down. And why? Because they're part of the con game as well. They're not working for the people. They work for Donald J. Trump. Just like the rest of them. They do not work for us. They work for him. That's why you continue to see these federal agents. You continue to see the National Guard. You continue to see these ICE agents rampaging through cities at will, doing what they want to do. And this is all from the leadership of Donald J. Trump and his cronies who are telling him what to do. Because he doesn't give a damn about us, whether we live or die. He doesn't give a damn if we eat tomorrow or not. It is of no consequences to him because he's going to be fat and fed until the day they put him in a box. He doesn't have to worry about where his next meal comes from. So he's not concerned where your next meal comes from. He's going to continue to do the things that he's doing for the next 3 years, if he lives, to try to make it painful on the American people. That's why he's attacking blue states, as he recently did in Colorado, where he's not allowing the money, the aid to come through there. He's earmarked here, the state of Illinois, because he doesn't like Governor Pritzker and he doesn't like Mayor Johnson. So his ideal is, I'm going to cripple your people. I'm going to cripple your cities and make people bend the knee. But see, what he didn't count on is our resiliency. Because see, we've fallen a lot of times, and yet we still get up and rise. And we will continue to rise. You see, that's what the moniker for us in my camp and at the We Rise Nation Network and the Grown Men Podcast. We rise, wise, educated, respected individuals successfully eaten. That's what that's about. We rise against the odds every day. And we get up and we go to work every day because this is what we do. So he's not going to stop us from eating because we'll find a way. See, that's the thing about Black Americans. We can get it when we need to. And most often we do. By any means necessary. And we will continue to do so. And we will continue to thrive. And we will continue to keep pushing until we get to where we are going. That is the narrative that we talk about all the time here at the Grown Men Podcast. Don't let nothing stop you from doing what you want to do. Ignore the noise, because that's all it is, noise. It's nothing that can stop you from doing what you want to do. And that's why pushback continues to work. And that's why the federal administration keep taking those L's in court. Because they know that they're wrong, but yet they're going to keep doing this. And as I've said previously on one of the Grown Men podcasts, Donald Trump has built his career on this very thing. He's the type of person that doesn't care about anyone other than himself. And people right now should know this, but as I said, they know it, but they're not listening and they don't care because they're out to protect what they think is rightfully theirs. And that's all they care about. Some people in this country believe that everything that they have, they're supposed to have. It's a God-given right for them to have it. This is what they believe. This is their belief system. They don't think that anyone that doesn't look like them is as good as them. And as I talked about previously on the Grown Men podcast about white privilege is not just for whites anymore. You got Black people, Latino people, you got Asian people, you got Indian people, you got people from all backgrounds who believe white privilege is extended to them now. As long as they all get along, everything is fine. If they get along for the main cause, everything is fine until they find out it's not. Because see, a lot of people of color who fell in line and did everything that this president has asked them to do. And yet they still don't have a seat at the table. Yeah, they give them a few crumbs to keep them satisfied. You know what I mean? I'll be real good from now on, Mr. Trump. You see, they give them a few crumbs, but they're never going to get that whole loaf of bread that they're looking for. And see, then they feel like dirt. They feel cheap. And that old saying goes around, now don't you feel used? But see, they don't. Because once again, they have more than their contemporaries. And that's what matters to them. We've talked about it before here on the Grown Man podcast. People only care about what they have and not what you have. But they want to have more than you have because they've built their whole lives around the aspect of being better. If I talk better, I'll be accepted. If I behave better, I'll be accepted. If I do everything that these people want me to do, I will be accepted. You never will. You never will. Because see, behind your back, you're still who you are. You still have the same skin color that you came in the door with. You can't bleach it. Doesn't work that way. They know who you are and they know what you are and they know you are an asset to them because you're putting your foot on the neck and the backs of others who are like them. And they applaud you for doing that. Yet you will never be accepted into their inner circle because you're not like them and they're not like you. So at the end of the day, all this rhetoric that I hear all the time about people, being judged on the character of who they are, and that's from all Americans, whether they be black, white, Latino, Asian, or whatever the case. Everybody thinks you should be judged by your character, right? And yet, when they're doing the wrong things, they're not supposed to be judged in the same manner. Because white collar crime and blue collar crime, they're both in the same regards. Stop trying to separate them and think that one is lesser of two evils. It's not. Because when you defraud people by committing the big con, it's just the same as if you robbing somebody in the street. It's the same. In fact, I think the white collar side is worse because they didn't see the con coming. The person on the street that gets robbed, at least the person came up to them and did it in person. They had the stones to do it in person. These people are taking from your bank accounts. They're running game on you. They're conning you to get your money. So they try to paint this picture that one is better than the other or one is lesser than the other two. A white collar criminal is much more better than a blue collar criminal. It's all criminality. Whether it's white collar or blue collar, neither one of them is right. And yet every day it happens all the time. And they talk about crime in the big cities and all these different things that they speak on. And yet when they do that, we're not thinking in our minds, at least a lot of us aren't, some of us are, that they're only trying to get attention off of what they're doing over here. So over there, they're talking about how bad crime is. Yet over here, they're saying, oh, we're building great infrastructure. Or we got these tariffs where these countries are doing, they're paying for this stuff. This is so great. That is part of the con. And the marks, the rubes, and the suckers are the only ones who fall for it. Clear thinking people don't fall for those tactics. We're a bit too smart for that. I call game when I see it. And most of the times, if it's something petty, I ignore it. And I tell people like, yeah, you going to fall for that? And I get a little laugh going because at the end of the day, if I tell you I've seen this act before and you say, oh, I'm still going to take this chance, nothing I can do. I throw my hands up and I walk away from it. Let's move on to the next topic is the way I like to do it because at the end of the day, you've already saddled yourself to this horse. So this is that horse that you want to roll with. Can't do nothing for you. However, I don't want you coming to me saying, man, I should have listened to you because then that's when I'm going to laugh. Because I'm not going to have any sympathy for you falling for the okie doke. You fell for it. Now you got to deal with the fallout from it. And right now, what's going on in the federal government, it's the same thing. Because there are a lot of people who are going to pay for this. There's going to be a lot of fallout when Donald J. Trump is either no longer president or no longer living. And you get people in there who are going to want to get the facts. And they're going to track down each and every one of these people that were part of this administration and try to prosecute them as well they should. Of course, Trump is going to try to pre-pardon everybody before he leaves the White House because he knows that they'll point the finger at him. That's why he's going to prolong this thing as long as he lives. He's never going to go to prison. That's something that people have to understand. Donald Trump is never going to prison. He's going to hell, but he's not going to prison. So you have to deal with the fact that this is something that is going to be ongoing for years and years. And that's what people try to do. That's what Donald Trump has always done. When he's had lawsuits and cases, He's tried to prolong them for years and years by suing other people so he can make those problems go away or hold them off long enough where people get distracted and move on to something else. He's running his presidency the same way. And it's going to be one of these topics that we're going to continue to address on the Grown Men Podcast because, for the simple fact, it's an ongoing situation, as I always say. Well, folks, it appears my time is up. I'm glad y'all stopped by to listen to what we had to say here because I think it's very important for people to know what's going on in their federal government. Head on over to WeRiseNation.com. See what we got going on over there. We're constantly uploading some of our stuff from the past, vintage items and merchandise that you might find interesting. We're going to continue to upload those things. Maybe you'll see some you like and you might want to, purchase. Well, till next time, folks, I am your host, BAN, and I will talk to you soon.
That's where the grown men stay so you can kill that noise. We be the best to do it coming out of Illinois. So sit back and relax, close your mouth and listen. We about to hit you with this knowledge that you've been missing. Listen closely to the Grown Men Podcast. We Rise Nation is the station with the gift of gab. We dropping knowledge on these topics that you wanna hear. We on point with it, get the picture loud.